please help me welcome Tim Shurr.
All right, welcome everybody to the program. I'm so glad that you're here. We have an incredible guest today. I'm so excited. This is Ford Saeks, and Ford is the secret sauce behind a lot of successful people out there in the world today. He has a huge background in marketing. He is himself an author and a corporate speaker. He's well known in the National Speakers Association circuit. He's managed people like Les Brown, right, and Tim Shurr. So he's, worked with some of the best out there, and he is just really amazing. So Ford, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. Well, I am super happy that you are here and that you're making time, because I know how in demand you are. So I appreciate that. So just real quick, why don't you give us a little synopsis of how you started out in life and how you got to where you are right now?
Well, how long is your program going to be today? What I would share with you is that I caught the entrepreneur bug at a very young age. Mm-hmm. I grew up in foster care and detention centers, and people refer to me as growing up in gated communities like the Hennepin County Detention Center. And so along the way, I learned a few lessons. I started my first business at 15, which of course learned a lot from that. And then now I'm a lot older, and I've learned a few lessons along the way, and I'm happy to be able to share them with other people as well as to continue learning. I think that, so when you ask me how I got started, I think it was really out of necessity. It was either hand out French fries or, work it for 75 cents an hour or go make my own worth.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you think it was for you? A lot of kids that have had it hard growing up go the other direction. And you were able to figure out a way, and I'm sure you've had your moments, but you were able to figure out how to channel it into becoming an entrepreneur. How'd that happen?
Well, I was working for minimum wage, and I was trying to figure out a way to earn money other than how everybody in my neighborhood was earning money, which is a whole other story in the projects. And so I thought what I would do is I would start a painting company, you see, because as a child in detention centers, every time I would swear as punishment, they would make me paint. So I became a pretty good little painter, and I thought, well, how hard can it be to start this business?
Yeah.
So I went to my friends in shop class, and I had to make up some flyers that said Saeks Painting and Light Construction, and I handed them out all over town. And finally, after 2 weeks, someone called me and said, hey, I'd like you to come out and quote the job. And I was all excited, Tim. I'm thinking, wow, I got my first prospect. And I thought, holy crap, I don't even own a paintbrush. So I went to the local paint store, and I went up to the manager and I said, sir, I just started this new business. Can you help me? He said, kid, get the heck out of here. Now, I didn't realize at the time, Tim, I had long hair, an army jacket, a 9mm. All right. I didn't have a 9mm. It was a 38. But I said to him, hey, I really need some help with this business. I just started. I got to go quote it. And he said, okay. So he goes over the shelf and he grabs a quart of paint, and he sticks a paintbrush in it, and he starts spackling me with paint. I'm like, thanks a lot. Now I got paint all over me. He said, well, you don't look like a painter. So he gave me a clipboard and a calculator and instructions, and off I went to the prospect's house. Now, Tim, you can only imagine how scared I was and frustrated and confused. I didn't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
So I knock on the door. The door swings open. The man's wife is standing there looking at me, and she starts taking me through the house. And she says, I want the ceiling fans fixed where the ceiling fans have cracked the ceilings. I want the windows glazed, and I want oil-based paint here and flat. And I'm writing all this crap down, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I just need to get out of here. What am I doing here? There's no way I know how to do this. But I told them, I have to go back to my office to prepare the proposal. I didn't have an office. So I drove back to the paint store. The paint manager helped me calculate all the materials I was going to need, all the labor I was going to need, and how much I should price it. Wow. Back I go with the proposal at hand. I gave them the proposal, and I said I need 50% down and 50% on completion. Now, she took a look at me and down at the proposal and back up at me and said, do you have any experience? Now, that was a critical point in my business, which was about 2 hours old. Do I tell them that I repainted the whole north wing of the Hennepin County Detention Center? Or do I tell them, if you're not 100% satisfied, you don't have to pay? She said, honey, write him a check. Now, I got that check, Tim, for $525, which might not sound like a lot of money right now, but back then it was 3 months worth of payroll or pay to me.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm going to figure out how to do this. Now, in that first year, Tim, I earned $175,000.
Really?
Equivalent. It was $36,000 then, but it's equivalent to $175,000 in today's economy. Not bad for a kid from the projects. So
Right.
that was where I got the bug, and I thought, you know what? Instead of doing things wrong to get attention, I'm going to do things right to get attention. And that led me on the path of success, as opposed to, and I've had failures along the way, but I always believe that there's no such thing as a money problem. If you want more money, add more value.
Nice. If you want more money, add more value. So that's incredible. So your mind started associating pleasure to doing things that were good for you, right?
Yeah, doing things for other people. You know,
Yeah.
it really, I wanted the attention of serving others.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it sounds kind of cliche right now, but really that was where my mindset was. The more I was able to help other people, then I got rewarded and paid for it. So that perpetuated the momentum.
Yeah. I always say that the more value you bring, the more valuable you become. And so how lucky too, and I don't know, maybe it was luck, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was divine intervention, but that guy that helped you figure out how to do it, right? In the store.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and they say that luck is what? Leverage under correct knowledge. You know, I mean, I had passion. I wanted to make a change. I wanted to do things differently. I had choices. I could be a criminal. I could work for minimum wage. I wasn't educated. I didn't have anything. And the strange thing was, this was, I was just getting into, it was ninth grade. And, I ended up getting on the work program. So through high school, I was my own boss. And I would fill out my own report card. I'd go to school for 1 hour a day, and then I would go to work, and it was work equivalent. So if you went to work, that it counted as schooling in back in the 70s. And what was great is I was actually making more money than my teachers. So after the first year,
Wow.
I was making double what they were making, and so life just went on from there.
Yeah. Wow, what an amazing story. So, that was really, I'm taking it all in. Usually I fire off the questions, but that is such an interesting story. And it's one of the things that, when you get scared, what do you do with it? Because as well as I do that a lot of entrepreneurs, one of the reasons why they're simply not succeeding is because of their own fear, right? So how did you learn how to channel that or how to get over it?
I think it's a constant lesson. I think we'd be BSing our viewers and listeners today if we made it sound like, we're not just like everybody else. You have your fears, I have mine. We all have them, and we all deal with them. I think the difference between the people that are successful and not aren't that they don't have the same fears, challenges, and setbacks. It's that their perspective is different. They look at things differently. They choose to look at it as, okay, failure isn't fatal. I'm going to move on. And sure, I mean, I don't want to let people think, oh, it's just been perfect. No, I've had plenty of challenges.
Right.
But what I would tell you is, it really is perspective. And for those people watching and listening to this today, really just need to think about, look at your life. Where are you at? Take stock in where you're at right now and realize that you are where you are, earning what you're earning because of the actions and the decisions that you've chosen to make. No one else made them for you. You can blame everybody else, your parents, your religious upbringing or whatever, your environment, or it's not. It's really your decisions. Now, I'm sure that I'd get an email from a third world country telling me that I'm not right. And okay, there might be some extreme circumstances. But for most of us, our own limitations are what set us back and set me back. So anytime where I haven't achieved, and I managed Les Brown, who's a motivational speaker, for 3 years. And Les used to say, when you see someone doing something that you think you could do better, when you see someone achieving or earning money or having the lifestyle that you believe you deserve, just remember that they represent the thoughts and feelings that you have failed to act upon. And it really stuck with me because so every time, I'm a keynote speaker, and I've got a couple friends that I charge $15K, they charge $25K. I can't charge $25K right now. I don't have a New York Times best-selling book. I guess I could charge. I don't want to have a limiting belief and say I can't charge that. I could, I guess, but I've positioned myself at 15, and that's where I'm at, and I'll go out at 15. But my point was that when he told me he was 25, there was a little bit of me at first. It was like, oh man, he's good, but is he that much better than me?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. But I have failed to act upon certain things. He wrote 4 books in 4 years. He spent a couple $100,000 promoting those books. He did the talk show circuit. He focused. So, if I would have done those same things, or if you would do those same things, or all of our listeners would do those same things, and it's success in any business, retail, wholesale, manufacturing, doesn't matter what type of business you're in, or if you work for another company and you're watching this, there's no such thing as job security, only skills security. You want to make more money? Get some more skills.
Nice. No such thing as job security, skills security. That's awesome. And I wrote down the other thing you said, the acronym for luck, leverage under correct knowledge. Nice. That's really good.
That's not from me. I read that somewhere and it stuck. I don't know.
Well, that's what happens, right? You keep exposing yourself. And what you said was everybody gets scared. Everybody gets knocked down. It's do you get back up and get back at it, right? In fact, one of my favorite things from Les Brown, since we're talking about Les, is he would say, if you're going to get knocked down, fall on your back. Because if you can see
look up, you can get up. Yeah.
If you can look up, you can get up.
Right. That's right.
Get up, get at it. Right. And I love that. And so that's really great. And you make a really good point, and you've helped me with that too. The fact that we can have whatever we want if we just start telling ourselves that we can, and we start asking for it. And a lot of times we're so afraid to ask for it, and then we beat up on ourselves because we think that we're the only one going through it, and then what's wrong with us, and it just takes you down this ugly spiral. So instead,
it really does. I mean, I don't know about your routines, but I have a routine in the morning. I get up, I open up Audible on my phone. Mm-hmm. I listen to an audiobook on the way to work. I'm constant. I mean, I probably go through a book a week, whether it's reading or listening. I'm constantly looking at programming, and, other people have looked at that and said, well, why are you doing that? Isn't enough good enough, or when is good enough? Well, it's not about wanting more. It's not about not being happy with where you are. But you need to condition yourself, because there's so much negative conditioning that you're bombarded with every day, that so many people get conditioned to it that they don't even realize it, whether it's the news, the media. I mean, turn on any major news and it's basically garbage. In most cases, it's not anything that's going to help you live a better life or add value. Or, I mean, yes, what I've always tell people is any important news you're going to find out about. I mean, anything that's happening, if it's that important or that big, you're going to find out about it. But if you spend an hour in the morning listening to the news and an hour at night feeding that to your brain, as opposed to feeding yourself something else that could actually help you, and then you wonder why you're a victim because that's all you see on TV is victimhood. Mm-hmm. So again, I don't consider myself a prosperity teacher or anything like that. I did write the book Superpower. You can see it over my shoulder, the sign from one of my books. But,
awesome book.
Really what I am is I'm a business growth guy. I specialize in helping people get more customers and increase the average transaction and increase referrals and, leverage technology. But you can't use any tactics if you don't have a success mindset or a success library.
Yes. That's beautifully said, Ford. My wife will say, "Do you hear what happened on the news today?" I'm like, "I haven't heard what happened on the news in the last year because I'm listening to audiobooks, right? Or podcasts." And
it's just, you certainly want to take a break and exercise and do other things, but I don't know about your success library. Every room in my house, I've just got tons of books. I've got books everywhere. I haven't read them all. I got news for you. I get sent books all the time. Will you endorse my book? So I can't say I've read every single one of those books. Right. And, I read a book differently. I don't just read it from cover to cover and just agree with everything in the book. Mm-hmm. I'm not blindlessly looking for that. I'll pick up a chapter, I'll read, I'll get a couple key points. The key is don't just consume, you need to execute. See, I've got people who come to my events, my high ticket events, and they're seminar junkies. They come every year and they show me their notebook and they tell me how many notes they took and how excited they were. And I love it. It makes me feel great, right? Mm-hmm. But what would make me feel better is if they showed me that they made money. What would make me feel better is if they showed me that they actually did some sales calls like you did last week, or send me a text like you did. Hey, I was holding off on doing this. I did X, Y, Z, and this is the results. That to me is the real testimonial. I'm glad they enjoyed my talk or my presentation or webinar or an interview like we're doing here today. But what really is great is when they take one idea and they implement. They take action on it. They move it forward, because that's what builds that confidence. I mean, you know, I'm a kid from the projects. I don't have a college degree. To think I'm charging 15 grand for a keynote, I mean, just to say that, I don't even know. I don't even, it's unfathomable. Now, I have clients that charge 60 to 75,000. I've got colleagues in this industry that I know charge 125,000. You know, so, you know, and then it puts it in perspective. Well, heck, I'm only charging 15. I mean, what am I? And then I've got clients that are charging $1,500 and they think that's just, you know, amazing, which it is. So it's not about the money. I want to be clear anytime I talk about money, it's really about value and your perspective. But if you want to earn more, you have to elevate your thinking before the money will come.
Yes. I think that money brings up so many mixed emotions for so many people that it can become one way for your scorecard, because you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to challenge your limiting beliefs. You have to, you know, step into that fear and go where it's uncomfortable and discover that, hey, I can really do this. And then that's what builds your confidence and makes you stronger. So absolutely going in that direction. And so whatever price point it is for you, you know, I remember when I first started charging for coaching sessions, it was $30 a session, right? Because I didn't think they'd pay more. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I got up to $100. I'm like, this is blowing my mind. And then I got to 150, right? And I thought there's no way that people would, and then I started selling packages and it just kept going on, right? And then charging, you know, thousands of dollars for an hour program or a 20-minute program. And so you're right, it's all a mind game. It's how confident are you that you can ask for something and expect to get it? And that lets you know where you're at. So it's kind of a personal scorecard for you. So
yes, it is.
So you've done so many things with business. You've created 10 different companies. You've won so many awards. You've helped so many people, me included. So I've been one of your students for the last year, and it's been really, really special for me. I've known a lot of people, and you are by far one of the sharpest. And you also lead with heart, right? You really care, and that is awesome. So, but it you know, you got to pay the price to work with Ford. Everybody that's listening, you know, he is a high caliber coach. I looked around and I'm like, who's the best? And I was told he's the best. And so, you know, you have to pay the admission fee, and I was willing to do it, and I'm glad I did. But that's part of your, I think it's part of your process, right? You know, the more people are willing to pay, it means the more sincere they are, the more serious they are, the more they're going to put what you teach them into action, which has got to feel good as a coach, as you said, right? So has there been a coach for you that gave you some bit of advice that has always stuck, that's helped you to take it to the level that you've taken it to?
Yeah, there's so many that I couldn't even begin to name them. I mean, literally, I could sit here for the next hour, just boom, 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 boom. You know, Nita Quabain, Les Brown, Chad Hymas, Randy Gage, Dan Thurman, Mike Rayburn, you know, Brian Burris. It's not about the people, and it's not that. And I want the listeners and viewers to realize that it's not about us. I mean, I appreciate the accolades you just gave me. There are people smarter than me. There are people smarter than you. And there are people smarter than all of our listeners and viewers. You know, there's always going to be someone better. That's not what's important. You don't want to be comparing yourself to what they're doing. I mean, you want to know where you stand, yes, but don't spend your time there. Mm-hmm. You know, happiness is measured in a lot of different factors. And, you know, people say, you know, money doesn't bring you happiness, but it sure makes you show up in style. You know,
yeah.
You know, I would say that, yeah, money creates its own set of problems. And, you know, if you look at the people who won the lottery, they say, I don't know what the statistics are, but within 3 years are right back to where they were, because they didn't elevate their mental thermostat to be where they should be. You know, they didn't believe they were either worth it or whatever. And that happens to everybody. I think the real takeaway here isn't that it's one mentor. It's, you know, what are the things in your life that you want to improve? I mean, have you actually sat down and done a brain dump? You know, is it relationships, spirituality, friendships, parenting? You know, what are the areas economically and physically and emotionally and mentally that you want to improve on? Start there. And then get really good, get clarity. Why do you want it? What is it going to do to you? What does it mean? And where did those beliefs come from? I have a saying that says that if a belief isn't serving you, maybe you need to get some new beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might have gone through a relationship or a business venture that didn't work. And so then you just think, well, that one failed. I can never do it again. Well, that's not true. As we all have heard from Tony Robbins, who coined it, the past doesn't equal the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can always do better. It's up to you. So each day, I believe, is a gift. You get a chance to get up and try it again and to, approach it with a new perspective. And you can either be a victim or a victor. If you choose to be a victim, then nothing's going to matter anyway. And you wouldn't be watching this episode anyway.
Right.
But if you want to really make a change in your life, then it's up to you to take a good look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I want? I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. What action steps am I taking? Take personal accountability and for your own success, and then go do something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So along the same lines then, so that's personally. So let's say for your business, if someone's on a shoestring budget and they're just starting out or they're wherever they are, right?
Okay.
And you could offer them one bit of business advice that would help them to start to grow and make some money. What might that be?
Well, the first thing I would do, it's a kind of process. It would be, get really clear on your value propositions. What are you really selling? And I'm not talking about your products and services, but what are the results? If I send you to Lowe's or Home Depot to buy a 1/2-inch drill bit, I don't want a 1/2-inch drill bit. If you're selling 1/2-inch drill bit, I don't want a 1/2-inch drill bit. I want the whole. I want the result, right? I'm going to buy holes. I'm not actually buying the drill bit.
Yes.
For your business, you have to do the same thing. Don't look at your products and services as the products and services. What are the results that those products and services are going to give that person, your customer base, whether it's B2B or B2C? Then, once you have your value proposition, then you need to ask yourself, are you clearly sending that message to the right target market? So, for example, the episode we're doing today is perfect for executives, owners, franchises, individuals, entrepreneurs. It's applicable.
Mm-hmm.
If you sent this to a group of single moms trying to learn how to parent a newborn, it doesn't matter how good this episode is. If it's the wrong market, then it doesn't make sense. So you really need to get clarity around who are you sending it to. So it's value proposition first, market, get clarity around your target market, your avatar, your prospect. Number 3, what method are you using to get that message to the market? I've got a client who was just in this office just the other day, and he was actually presenting here in Wichita. So he came by my office and he was telling me about his campaign that he was doing to executives. And when I asked him what he was doing, I said, it won't work. Before he even gave me his metrics, I said, this isn't going to work. And he says, what? You have a crystal ball? And I said, yes. As a matter of fact, I do. So I actually have a crystal ball. And so I told him, I said, there's no way that's going to work, because he had a really good message. He had a really good value proposition. He knew who his market was. He knew he wanted to reach executives, but the method he chose was postcards. And I said, seriously, how do you think a postcard is going to get through the gatekeeper of a company that has over 50 employees about growing whatever? I won't say what the guy did, because you could Google him and figure it out. But I was just like, that won't work. So he had the right message, he had the right market, but he didn't have the right method. So we talked about ways that he could use LinkedIn and other methods to actually get to the prospects he wanted, which will actually help him get sales. So he spent all this money and he listened to, he read a book or went to a seminar and, he drank the Kool-Aid, but he didn't apply it right to his business.
Very good. Very good. So knowing who you are and what you have to sell and what people want, and then identifying who your ideal market is, and then the right delivery system.
Right. So any business owner out there, whether it's retail or wholesale, get clarity around your product lines. What's the funnel? When they buy product 1, should they buy product 2? When they buy product 2, should they buy product 3? Or is it just a one-time sale? If you're selling a 6-figure installation on a piece of equipment, well, then no, it's one thing. But then you have the service, the follow-up. I would also say, Tim, that before someone makes a buying decision, they have to overcome their fear.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're dealing with buyers, not your fear, their fear. Their fear might be change. If getting your product is going to cause change in their lives or their company, and they don't like change, then they won't buy. Even if they want the benefits, it won't work. If they fear disruption, if they think that doing business with you is going to disrupt their policies, procedures, they won't buy. So change, conflict, failure. Maybe they don't want to make a buying decision because they might fail. I mean, I've talked to people who talked about joining CrossFit, and they go, "Oh, I can't do that. I might get hurt." Well, they haven't even gone yet, and they're talking about how they're going to get hurt when they don't even know what they don't know. So, as a business owner, you just have to ask yourself, there's plenty of money out there. There's plenty of people out there. You just have to make sure that you're spending your time wisely and ask yourself, is this the highest and best use of my time?
So you've hung around some really high performers. Is there something that you've noticed that might be a common theme behind some of these top business professionals or top speakers that seem to help them stand out so much higher than everybody else?
Yes. Three things. I'll say three. Mindset, focus, and execution.
Mm-hmm.
They have the mindset, the belief. They believe that they can do it. They believe it's possible. They have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So that's number one. Number two, they're focused. They pick one lane and they put their heart and soul into it, and they really work to dominate it. And number three is past part number two, which was execute. Mm-hmm. They don't just go to the seminars, read the books, listen to the audio books. They execute. Mm-hmm. So they execute daily, and they get better, but they execute. So all these overnight successes that you hear about really weren't overnight successes, but they spent time getting there.
Yes. Yeah. An overnight success usually takes about 10, 15 years.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
So that goes in line. It's in alignment with your book, Superpower, right? And the subtitle is How to Think, Act, and Perform with Less Effort and Better Results. So is that part of understanding what your particular superpower is?
Yeah, Superpower is a great book. It's a quick read. It's applicable to anybody who's in business, anybody who wants to get a blueprint roadmap on how to live a better life and make better decisions. When I was putting the book together, because I really focus on marketing, the problem I found was that the audiences I spoke to, we had to work on their mindset first. Mm-hmm. Because they had certain conditioning, certain belief systems that were preventing them from actually being successful. Mm-hmm. So I put the book together as a precursor to that. It's not a marketing book. It's strictly a common sense book. And so the original title for the book, Tim, was Common Sense is a Superpower. And they didn't want it to be that long. They wanted to shorten it out. But really what I'd been told for years was, hey, Ford, you take complicated topics and you make them simple to understand. You give me doable action steps that I can actually apply. Wow, I finally understand LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or autoresponder campaigns or sales funnels or whatever it is. Well, it's because I think that most people just make it too complicated. Now, I'm not talking about all the bells and whistles and check boxes if you're doing Google AdWords campaign. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that with Superpower, you look at when you were a kid. When you were a kid, you had creativity, you were innovative, you were unabashed, right? I mean, you've got kids, and if they want something, they'll sell you. I mean, are kids good salespeople? Yeah, Daddy, I want this. I mean, they're persistent, right?
Very.
And somewhere along the way, their creativity and their innovation gets schooled out of them, where they get conditioned not to think, or to only find the one answer. So Superpower just gives you a way to look at, where have you been? Where are you now? Where do you want to go? How are you going to get there, and how to celebrate? So it just gives you a blueprint for that.
So are there any real marketing secrets then, or is it really just come down to the things that you've already talked about?
It's so funny when, I'm a boomer, And, there's Gen X and Gen Y and millennials. And now there's the new one before the millennials. The millennials are getting old. And I read a blog post, new secrets of marketing, and you read it and it's like, write headlines. I'm thinking, I don't know if they're thinking that that's a secret or not, but that's not something that's new. There's the greats in copywriting that have been around for years.
Yeah.
But everything gets recycled, just like movies get recycled. So the new ideas come out as if they're a secret. Well, in the end of the day, they're really not a secret. To keep this simple, if you really want to grow your business, you don't go broke making a profit. So first of all, you need to make a profit. Okay. You can't sell it less than your cost and think you're going to make it up on volume. Okay. You can't operate without cash flow. All right. You've got to look at your whole business model and really look at, is it working? I mean, there's been times in my business where I had 100 employees at one of my companies, and that was 99 more than I wanted. I'm an entrepreneur. I know what I'm good at. People are good at one of three things, Tim. They're either good at marketing, managing, or delivering the product or service. Like if you're a chef, maybe you're a really good chef, but then you open up a restaurant and your restaurant goes to crap, but it's not because your food wasn't good. It's because you didn't know how to operate a business, get employees, manage schedules, and market, right? So people are good at one of those three things. Maybe they're good at two. So I've always been good at delivering whatever the product or service was and the marketing. The management, I know and I understand. I know how to read a cash flow and income statement and chart of accounts, and I know the 14 ratios of running a business, and I know all that stuff, but it's not fun for me. Mm-hmm. Now, had it been more fun for me with the money I've made, I'd probably be living on an island right now and not doing this interview with you. So thanks to God that I wasn't able to manage my money more effectively, or I'd have a lot more money than I have right now. So I've definitely made the money, but it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Yes.
And it's not what you sell, it's your net profit.
Yeah.
I remember my first year, I invented a sporting goods product that was a bike rack that went from floor to ceiling. People might have seen them. It's just a pole system where you can hang your bikes. Mm-hmm. And I started that company in '84 and sold $50 million worth of that company before I sold the company revenue. And I remember my first year that I sold $1 million in sales, I went to my accountant and I said, wow, I'm a kid from the projects and I just made $1 million. and he said, hold on there, Skippy. He said, you didn't make $1 million. You sold $1 million. You're $150,000 in debt and you took home $16,000 as an income this year.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay. I better figure out how to read a balance sheet and income statement and manage employees and look at that. So, there's a lot of facets to growing a business. It's not just marketing. It's not just, people in management think it's just management. People in marketing think it's just, no, it's not. It takes all three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very good point. I've met people who had $1 million businesses and they were taking home like 50,000, annually. And I'm like, wow, that seems like an awful lot of work. But
that's the point. I mean, you can go get a job for that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why it's important to make sure you do what you love, right? So right. Have a why so big it makes you cry.
That's right. I've been there.
Yeah, me too. So recently you took a trip to the Himalayas, right? Went on this,
yes.
I don't know what, there was some nature walk or a path to your soul, or
it was called the Hero's Climb.
Okay. Tell me about it.
We went, it was with Vince Vicente, a colleague and speaker. He's an Olympian.
Mm-hmm.
And each year he did what's called the Hero's Climb for charity. And we would go and we would honor fallen heroes, either somebody who overcame cancer, a fallen military person, or some hero in their life. And we would go to uncharted mountains and we'd climb a mountain, and then we would name the peak after one of the fallen heroes. And we might name some places along the way. So I spent 3 weeks in India, and it was a great trip. And we went 90 miles and went to 15,000 square feet, which was high for me. I realized that there's mountains a lot higher than that. This wasn't Everest. It wasn't technical. It was extreme hiking, I would say, or we did climb a mountain, but it wasn't, we did have ropes and crampons and things like that, but it wasn't like Everest. So I want to be very clear to all those Everest speakers out there. No, I didn't climb Everest. But it was a life-changing experience. I mean, when you go into some of the places we went, Americans don't get to go. We got to go with someone who was a native to the area that got us into an area that's closed off. You can't just go visit these places that we went because they're uncharted. And so seeing how they live and their perspective and the smiles on their faces, and it was beautiful. It was really a beautiful experience.
So when you bring that home, right? Because I know that you are someone who's got a million things going on. You and your team are always have a lot going on. And then all of a sudden you go away for 3 weeks and unplug. I'm sure that took a while to get used to. And then when you come back and you have to try to dial it up again. So did you find some kind of balance? Did you bring something new back from that trip?
Yeah, I brought a lot of things back from that trip. It took me about a week to disengage.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 weeks, I didn't want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously, I'm saying that now. I mean, yeah, I'm passionate about what I want to do, but I remember sitting at this one campsite that we were at for 3 days to acclimate before we went higher. And I mean, we were way out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we were 45 miles into the mountains. There was no cell phone range, first of all, because we were too close to either Pakistan or Afghanistan, where we couldn't have cell phones because they would think we're in the military. So we were in an area that you couldn't get to. And we were in an area that doctors don't fly in the Great Himalayan National Park. So, I mean, if I got sick or something, that's it. It's over. And I remember just sitting there on this cliff and just looking out, and I would watch the clouds come in. And up there, the clouds and the sun, I mean, it was really crazy. It was crazy, Tim. You would sit there and you would be 80 degrees and hot in a t-shirt, and literally within 3 seconds the sun would come by and you'd be in freezing weather. There were areas that you could actually put your hands out like this, and your one hand would get frostbite and the other one would get sunburn. I mean, it was just weird. I mean, it was just that dynamic. Yeah. And so no, I thought a lot about my life and where I'm at and what I've done, and so it was really great to reflect, and I probably need to do that more often. I know a lot of my clients have done that more often. Friends and colleagues have done that more often. I haven't. I had never taken basically a month off of my business, but I've got a lot of friends and colleagues that take a month off a year every year, or 2 weeks every quarter, and I haven't done that. So I'm looking at my life now, going, okay, what do I really want? Like, what's really important to me, and how do I want to live?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, those are questions that we always want to be asking, and slowing down and taking the time to do it, because in our busy world that we are in right now, it just seems like there's so much coming at us all the time that we don't have time to just stop and think, right? Because we're too busy doing. But as that old adage, we're not human beings, we're not human doings, we're human beings, right? And to slow down and be in the moment. So that's good. Yeah. And I hope you keep asking the questions and you find the answers, at least for the next chapter of your life.
Yeah, there's some chapters coming, so I'm looking at it.
Good. Always. So if you could go back now with all the wisdom that you had, that you've collected, and you could go spend a couple minutes with that little boy that you once were, what advice would you give him?
I would probably say, it's going to sound, it's cliche, I think, but don't worry about 99% of the things that you're going to worry about. But I don't know if telling a kid they would get it. But really, if you look back at how much time people spend, and I've spent, worrying about what could happen, what people might say, what people might think, it's just crazy. I mean, I'll share a quick little story with you. I've already shared it with you, but I'll share it. It's relevant. Mm-hmm. So, as you know, my son Logan passed away 4 weeks ago, or actually 2 weeks ago from here. I told you this, didn't I? Yeah.
I talked to you when you were getting ready for it.
Oh, so you hadn't heard this yet?
No.
Oh, this is good. Let me tell you this story. I didn't know if I'd talked to you since then.
Okay.
All right. So my son was, when I talked to you last time, he was in the hospital and going through cancer. Well, he passed away a week ago Saturday.
Okay.
So he went from playing hockey to weakness to a wheelchair to the hospital to dying within about 10 days. So, I mean, it went very, very quick.
Wow.
But it's not to bring everybody down. Hang on, everybody. It's not a bad thing. So I got to spend a lot of time with him in the hospital. I got to spend a lot of time near his bed, sleeping with, in his room at night, talking to him. Because, I mean, he was conscious. He just was, the cancer was going up through his spine. So it paralyzed his legs and it paralyzed his arms. And pretty soon it paralyzed his lungs and he couldn't breathe anymore and he died. But I was with him Saturday morning, the day that he passed. And it was 7:30 in the morning. And I woke up. And, we were trying to keep him out of pain, wiping his forehead, and he could barely breathe because his vocal cords were bad. And to set the stage for this, my son was like my best friend, and we had a great relationship. And he was very sarcastic and quick-witted, and he always cared about everybody else. And he never wanted anybody else to be in pain. And he also played hockey. So he had his hockey buddies 24/7. There were like 25 people in his room for 10 days. Like, we had 25 people in the room, 25 people in the waiting room, 25 people in the next waiting room, and they would rotate. So he had no shortage of love and attention for the last 10 days of his life. I mean, we had a party. I mean, we did the best we could, right? So it's not a bad thing. There's a point here. So Saturday morning, I just happened to be the only one in this room with him, and there's one other person, and he's trying to breathe, and his eyes are open, but he can barely breathe. And I'm thinking, oh crap! I mean, this is it. He's gonna die right now in front of me. And so it cracks. I lose it, right? I lose my shit, and so I turn around and I start to cry a little bit. And I turn back, and he can see me, but I'm trying to compose myself because here's this kid. I don't want him to be in pain, and I don't want to have him see me cry. So I'm smiling. I put this fake smile on my face, and I say, "Hey, Logan." Logan was his name. I said, "Hey, Logie, I'm here, buddy. I love you. We don't want you to be in any pain, but I'm here for you, sunshine." And he takes a deep breath. And he says, "Pussy."
Oh my God.
Now, I said to him, I said, "You little son of a bitch." I'm not trying to cuss for all of you viewers of Tim Shurr. Please do not blame him for my language. It's not meant to offend or anything else to anybody here. But I said to him, I said, "You little son of a bitch, that's going to be your last words to me." And his eyes started flickering and he was laughing. But that's the kind of attitude he had. And so yeah, I miss him. And yes, it's a tragedy, and condolences are great. But the last 10 days I spent, he said, he said to me one time, he said, "Ford, the reason I'm able to go through what I went through is because of how you raised me. You raised me never to be a victim, to always take personal accountability, to never look at somebody else or blame everybody else." And I was like, holy crap. I would have pulled my plug the first 5 minutes of chemo. He went through chemo, radiation, surgery, and stem cell. I'm sorry. He's strong. He's a hero. I got news for all my listeners out there. If that happens to me, 3 days, I'm gone. I'm moving on to whatever's next. But my point was, when he called me that, he didn't mean it negatively, and he wasn't trying to offend anybody. He just knew that instead of me being upset, he could make me laugh.
Yes.
And so here he was with literally, that was the last thing he ever said to me. After that, he couldn't talk. That was the last words he used. And he just took a deep breath, and I'll never forget the look on his face, because he had one eye open, and he was kind of smirking a little bit. He goes, "Pussy." And I'm like, oh my God, Logan, what are you talking about? So yes, I miss him dearly. But again, like we've talked about, life's too short. It moves on. There's lessons to be learned and all that. I'm not saying that everything's a lesson and that I don't have a heart. But I've had a lot of time to process this. I mean, he was sick for 18 months. We thought he was getting better, and he went through up and down. So it's been a little rough on my business. Obviously, financially, it was rough because I spent a lot of money trying to figure out how to take care of him, and where could we send him, and what could he do to be better.
Of course. And
ultimately lost that battle. But what he left with us is great, because I remember we had 25 hockey friends around the room one day. And I said Logan was awake and conscious and everything. I said, "Logan, man, you are so lucky that you've got all these great friends that I mean, literally these guys, these 25, 27-year-old guys were in his room holding his hand and wiping and feeding him, spoon feeding him. I mean, it was just like unbelievable, his friends, right?" And his best friend said to me, "No, we're lucky. The reason we're all here is because of Logan.
Mm.
And it was just like, and then I heard a bunch of stories that I hadn't heard before, some trouble he'd gotten into and stuff. So yeah, it was a great experience. But the lesson to take away for the viewers and listeners is really, what are you waiting for? Life's too short. He was 29. I would have traded places with him in a heartbeat. I've lived, I wouldn't want that for anybody. So the lesson here is move on. I mean, yeah, I'm grieving and everything in my own way. But I also, every time I start to get upset, I think about what he called me. I mean, I was riding my bike the other day and I kind of got tired and I heard his little voice and I speeded up. I was at CrossFit yesterday and I was a little tired of lifting the weight. And I got up this morning and I wanted to stay in bed. I was like, I don't want to go. I knew I had this interview with you, but I'm like, I'm just going to take the day off. And I thought, no, I'm going to get to work. So if there's something in your life that's challenging you, I'm not calling you that name. I would just say, put it into perspective. What's really the problem?
Yeah. Wow.
See, I didn't know. I didn't know if I'd talked to you since then. I didn't know. So there you go. Spring it on you during the interview.
That's wow. So, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Because that's the definition of strength through vulnerability, right? And being really authentic. And, the fact that Logan was going through all of that and he was still focused on taking care of you.
That's what I mean. That was what was so odd. I mean, here he knew, like the doctor told him 3 days earlier when he was in a wheelchair, he got to watch he was a Cowboys fan. And he got to watch his final football game the week before because he was in there for 10 days. So, I mean, he had friends and parties and he just slowly deteriorated. But even to the end, he never once complained. He never, he didn't give up. I'm not going to say that he just gave up and accepted it. That's not what I'm saying. He was a fighter till the end, but he never, he never thought it should be somebody else,
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. The message, because, we talked a lot about fear and how to overcome it. Right. And, a lot of our biggest fears is somehow we're going to lose everything, and then the ultimate fear is death. But I think that what we should really be afraid of is not living.
Yeah, I agree. But is that fear big enough? I mean, we've heard that, we've said it as speakers, authors, and experts, but in reality, very few. I think the reason I'm piggybacking, kind of interrupting you a little bit, was
okay.
I remember when I was 15 years old, I was unabashed.
Mm-hmm.
I was more unabashed then than I am now, because now I'm this business growth innovator and I've written books and I speak and, and I'm an expert and I get accolades from clients. But I think that we have to be careful that we don't get engrossed in our own bios.
Where we buy our own hype, right?
Yeah. Where we stop taking the actions that got us there. And if you look at actors and athletes, I mean, a lot of people who reach a certain level of success, that happens. And I'm a victim of the same thing. I mean, I let myself sit on my laurels for too long and didn't do certain things I could have done, and money was good and things were coming in. And, I have a whole new perspective now. Gosh, I let so many years go by where but I'm not looking at it in a I shoulda, coulda, woulda life. I'm not living in should land, but I have to look at that and go, okay, if I don't want that to happen, now I got to do something different.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think, that's why we have perspective. So we can sit back and say, instead of beating up on ourselves, the question is always, what do we want to do now? What do we want? What do we want to do about it? Right. And then keep moving forward. I think that, what I'll take away more from anything that we've talked about is the lessons from Logan. Right. And, he was so others focused. He was surrounded by love, and he probably lived more in that last 10 days than most people have lived in the last 10 years.
Well, it's so true. I was his stepdad. I raised him since he was 3. So I call him my son, being adopted myself. I mean, it's who raises you, right? And nothing against his biological dad. We're friends. He's close to me. We're close. Yes. And I never tried to stay in, I always told Logan he had 2 dads. Yeah. So Logan always knew he had 2. So there's never a conflict there. But But, one of the things he told me, he said, I'm so glad, he said to me, he said, I'm so glad that you pushed me to take risks, that you encouraged me to do scuba diving and deep sea fishing and skiing and play hockey and football and travel and read books and try to be an inventor. And so there was a lot of things he rattled off. These are things that he said to me.
Wow.
And I cause he said, because the reason he had all this upbringing is he listened to Les Brown tapes his whole life, because when I was younger, all I did was listen to Les Brown in my car. So he was ingrained with Les Brown. I mean, every day in the car, back and forth to school or to soccer or something, he was always listening to Les Brown. So he just adapted. It sunk in at a very young age, and it formed his belief system. And that's why he looked at life with living. And he said to me, he said, look, Les used to say there's people who are 27-year-old and dead and 97-year-old that are alive. And Les used to have this line. He would say, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? Like if you woke up tomorrow and you didn't know how old you were, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?
Yeah.
If you didn't let the number define what you're capable of. And, I mentioned CrossFit earlier, and I started CrossFit about 4 years ago. And when I first went to CrossFit, I'd never really lifted weights. I was a speed skater and a cyclist, but I'd never really lifted weight. And I went to CrossFit, and they had this whiteboard on the wall, and it had the, all the different weightlifting modalities and the top 5 people in each category. So deadlift, bench press, overhead snatch, whatever. And so I said, how do I get up on that board? I'm a competitive guy. And the coach said to me, well, that's for the younger people. That's something that, we would want you to hurt yourself. And I thought to myself, that son of a bitch is putting limits on me. And how is he putting limits on me? So within a year, I was the top spot on the back squat. I'm on the board for the back squat, the front squat, the deadlift, the push press, and the bench press.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, and if for those of you watching this that don't believe me, go to Instagram and search for my name, and you can actually watch the videos and you can see me lifting the weight. Okay. So it's not a secret. It's not a joke. But the point was that a lot of people are always quick to put limitations on what you think you can and can't do. And so it was so funny. I was in there. I'm just trying to see if I could find the video real quick, because I can share the screen and show it, but I just don't see it real quick. Anyway, you can go to Instagram and you can look it up. Nope, don't have it right here. All right. So anyway, I remember being in there one day, and there were some new guys in there, and new guys that had been working out. I'd been traveling, speaking, and I showed up, and by that point I'd been going to CrossFit for 3 years. Everybody in the room knew me except these new guys, and they were firemen. And these guys were like man candy. I mean, you're talking abs and a tank top. I mean, they're firemen. I mean, picture a fireman calendar, and that's what these guys look like, right? So I show up, and it's the 5:30 class, and they're doing the back squat, and I said, hey guys, can I get in with you? And they're like, first thing, no, we don't want you to get hurt. Now, of course, now the coach is laughing in the corner because he knows I can out back squat all of them. So we end up putting one plate on. It was 135, 2 plates is 225, 3 plates is 315. And at 315, they stop. They're doing 1 rep. So it's my turn to do 315. And I just start doing it. And I look around and go, well, guys, how many are we supposed to do? And I'm doing like 4 reps, and they're like, holy crap. So then I bench it. And then we put on, 2 more plates, and it's 405, and I do 405.
Oh my God.
And they're like, holy crap. And I turned to them and I said, you shouldn't always judge a book by its cover. Now in marketing, you should judge a book by its cover. Okay. If you're selling a book, your cover makes a lot to it. But in life, be careful that you're not putting limitations or predisposed things of what you can and can't do on yourself just because the society or what. It's just like, I won't bother telling you the story of Roger Bannister, and he ran the 4-minute mile or whatever.
Yes.
And then after that, high school kids were doing it. But really, I would tell everybody, look, it is possible. You don't know what's possible. Stop setting your limitations based on what other people have done. I always like the story about Steve Jobs and the iPhone and Apple. I mean, those things the iPhone got invented. The iPad got invented. I mean, these weren't things that were copied. They were new, and they were disruptors.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. So if people want more of you and they want more of your coaching or your video programs, or they want to get your book, what's the best way to get a hold of it?
Best way to get a hold of me, first thing I would tell all your subscribers is they need to go to fortify.tv, FORDIFY.tv, and subscribe. You get weekly episodes on business growth where I help you fortify your business. So I think all you subscribers of you should also go subscribe to my channel. They'll get some great things there.
Yes.
They want to look at more information. Obviously, they can Google my name, but they can go to primeconcepts.com or profitrichresults.com. So I have a business, Prime Concepts, and then I have my speaking at profitrichresults.com.
Fantastic. We will put those URLs on our sites as well. And the Fortify TV, those are really, really great episodes. So if you're looking for an advantage to help you grow your business, no matter where you're at, if you're just starting out or you are at the top, then you have to absolutely go and subscribe and check that out. You'll be blown away by all the insights and practical advice that Ford will give you that you can start implementing right away to grow your business. So one last question, just because I'm curious. So you grew up listening to Les Brown tapes and programs, right? And then all of a sudden you're managing him. How in the world did that happen?
Okay, so one quick story. You got 3 minutes. It's going to take about 3 minutes to tell the story.
I will make 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure I don't want to take my time. Well, I didn't grow up listening to Les Brown. I grew up listening to Dennis Waitley and a few other things before I even knew who Les Brown was.
Sure.
And I became an owner in a company called Prime Star, which was it was at the time it was direct selling, and it was positive programming with satellite TV programming. And so it was Prime Star, and then it became the People's Network, TPN, long time ago. Anyway, so I get this satellite dish from TPN, the People's Network, and it was supposed to be positive programming. They were years ahead of their time. And it's a satellite dish. This is before DirecTV and Dish, and this is way before that, back when there was just cable. But you could buy this dish, and it came with this Cracker Jack box compass. And you're supposed to go on your roof, and you're supposed to direct your satellite to the southern sun so that you can get the signal and tune this TV channel. So here, picture this. I'm on my roof with an extension cord and one of those small TVs. At the time, these weren't flat screens. This was the little portable TV that had a little VHS player in it. Remember those things? Mm-hmm. And I'm tuning in this satellite dish to get the signal onto the TV. And as soon as it comes in, it's Les Brown, because this is one channel. And he's preaching, he's going through his stories and his life, and I am mesmerized. I'm sitting on this roof for 20 minutes holding this TV set, didn't even lock down the satellite into the position, and I'm mesmerized. Well, it starts to rain. Now I'm on the roof holding a big metal dish and a TV set in one hand, and my wife comes out of the house and says, "Get the bleep off the roof. What are you thinking?" And I wasn't thinking. I was so mesmerized by this video of Les Brown speaking. Wow. So I get off from the roof, and I carry the TV with the extension cord in the house, and I watch the whole hour PBS presentation of his, on the People's Network. On I think it was It's Possible. That was the video. It's Possible. So anyway, I watch it, and I tell my wife at the time, I said, this is so amazing. I'm going to find a way to work with him. Well, one of the things that Les said at the end of his video was, if you want to learn how to speak, you need to join Toastmasters. I didn't know what Toastmasters was. This was pre-internet, guys. This is like 91 maybe. The internet was there, but it wasn't, Al Gore hadn't invented it yet or whatever. So anyway, let's catch up. I'm watching Les Brown. I'm motivated. He tells me to join Toastmasters. I join Toastmasters. I go to Toastmasters, and I start going through the 10 basic speeches of your certified Toastmasters, CTM. And one of the speeches was, tell us about something in the future. Give us a speech about something in the future. So I gave a speech in 1992 or 3 about how I was going to work with Les Brown. Now, I just totally made it up. It was just one of those Toastmaster speeches. But I got a lot of laughs, and these weren't laughs from people laughing with me. These were people laughing at me. So when I got done and they do an interview, they do the critique, they said, look, this was supposed to be something you could actually do. What makes you think you can, and they gave me all these negative things that, and I'm like, who are you to tell me what's possible? The whole thing was about being possible, and now you're telling me it's not possible.
Right.
So fast forward, 92, 93, I joined the National Speakers Association in 94. Les Brown is the opening keynote speaker. I go up to Les Brown in Minneapolis, and I say, Les, you're the reason I'm here. I joined Toastmasters. Now I'm a speaker. I want to do what you do. And he looked at me and he shook my hand and he said, you're the reason I'm here. I'm going to make you proud. And I'm like, wow, so here's my idol, and I sit in the front row and I drink the Kool-Aid and I take the notes and, all that stuff. And this is amazing. I got to meet the Les Brown. Okay, fast forward. So now I love Les Brown. I call his office and I tell him I want a copy of all of his, I want a catalog so I can pick out which products I want from him. And they send me, how you put a copy through the copier and you copy it so many times that the characters start to fill in. You millennials out there won't know what we're talking about, but if you copy something so many times, it bleeds and you can't read it. Well, they send me this little crappy piece of nothing. Now, at the time, I'd already done millions. You got to understand, I was already very successful in business, and I knew how to market, and I knew how to sell, and I was in tons of catalogs, Sharp Image. I was in Walmart. I mean, I knew how to sell. And I'm looking at this catalog going, this doesn't make sense. Les is so good, but his marketing is so bad. So I call his office. They think I'm a groupie. They blow me off. Fast forward, it's 1995, June of 1995. I'm speaking now. I'm on the circuit. I'm making money. I'm doing all this stuff. And one of my clients says, hey, I know a speaker who could really use your help. We just had him in here. I said, who is it? It's Les Brown. I said, well, you tell that son of a bitch, if he wants me, he can call me because I'm done. I've tried to call him. He doesn't want to work with me. So fast forward, Christmas Eve, 1995. I get a call. My wife says, Ford, I think Les Brown's on the phone.
Oh my God.
Now, I think she's just teasing me.
That's your Oprah moment, right?
So I think she's teasing me. So I said, oh, bull, he's, yeah. And she said, no. And now you got to remember, she knew his voice because I was playing in the car all the time. So she was like, she already knew him. So as soon as he was on the phone, she knew. So I get the phone call and I said, hello, this is Ford. And he said, Ford? I said, yeah. And he says, why the heck wouldn't you call me back? Why wouldn't you call me? I said, well, Les, I love you. I think you're the greatest motivational speaker, but you just have no clue how to run your business or how to market. Your products are terrible the way they're packaged. I said, and he said, well, I made $1 million last year. I said, Les, I made $10 million last year. I said, look, I think you're the greatest speaker, but you don't know how to do certain things that I could help you with. So let's fast forward. I fly to New York. I become his manager. I'm making 10% of everything he makes. I'm traveling everywhere with him, and he was married to Gladys Knight. So now I'm spending time in private jets and limos with him and Gladys Knight. It was like out of this world, right? I went from to this world. Now I was booking myself at $5,000. I'm booking him at $30,000 at the time. Back then, my fees were $5,000 for a keynote. Now they're 15. So anyway, I'm working with him for the first year, and I'm really busy. And then he needs to come to my office because we were remote. He didn't need to come to Wichita. So I flew him into Wichita, Kansas. And I said, Les, do you got a couple hours extra? He said, sure. I said, there's a special meeting I want to go to today. So I went to the downtown Toastmasters Club, 50 people. I went in as a guest. I had to stay outside. I said, hey, is it okay? I said, is it okay if I bring a guest? And of course, if you know Toastmasters, they're lifers, right? They stay forever, and there's a lot of them there. And so I go into the meeting. There's about 45 people. This was a big club in Wichita. It's one of the bigger clubs. And I said, I've got a special guest that I brought.
Oh my God.
And because I had stopped going to Toastmasters when I joined NSA, so I hadn't been to Toastmasters in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And no one knew what I was doing, and I had forgotten all about that other than when he came to town.
Yes.
So in comes Les Brown. And Les Brown goes up to the front of the room and says, do you mind if I make a few words? And everybody's like, are you kidding me? Like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
And Les said, I want you to raise your hand if you were in the room when Ford gave his speech about this. And of course, 30% of them were still in the room, and they raised their hands. And he said, you represent the thoughts and feelings, or Ford represents the thoughts and feelings that you failed to act upon. Who are you to tell somebody else what's possible? Like, he like bitched at him for like 10 minutes and then said, look, and then he gave a little keynote and a story, and it was funny.
Yeah.
But my point was, I guess I never really realized it. What is possible? I mean, I did all these things. I've done all these things in my life, but I'm guarantee you there's people out here listening to this, watching this, that are a lot smarter, a lot more talented, a lot funnier, have great content. But if you're not actually doing it, then don't complain about the people that actually are taking action, even though they may not be as good as you. So that's a long story, but that is the story.
Oh, that is
never been told before online.
Yes. Yay. Oh my God. That is so awesome. Oh, all right. Well, I got to tell you this just real quick, because you might think it's fun, and I am not trying to one up or anything, because I don't think.
No, I want to hear it. This is what we're about. Go ahead.
That is a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous story. I just love the fact that you went back to Toastmasters with Les Brown.
Oh, I did. I brought him into the room and everything.
Oh my God, that's so good. And that line again, where you represent, right? What you believe.
They have failed to act upon.
Yeah, that is such a powerful statement. The thoughts and feelings that you fail to act upon. I mean, that is powerful, because people have had that where they'll have an idea for an invention, and then 6 months later they see it on TV and they're like, they ripped me off. Oh, no. They didn't rip you off. You didn't act on it. Right.
So, that's exactly right. Every time I see a New York Times bestselling book, or I have a client that is more successful in the speaking business than I am, but they need me for a certain part of their business, and I'm helping them, I'm thinking, I just made them, like I helped a client make $2.8 million. You've heard the story. I won't tell it. I didn't make $2.8 million on my video marketing, and I helped him make $2.8 million. He sold 280 clients at 10 grand. Do the math. It's $2.8 million. So, I'm proud of it. And he's, great testimonial. But then I have to think to myself, wow, what could I be doing different?
Yeah.
So tell me your story. Tell me what you're talking about.
Oh, it was just real quick. And then, because then I have another thought for you. So, and then eventually we'll wrap this up. But so I remember I was ran our BNA, Business Network International. It was a business networking group, and I was the educational coordinator. I was just going to do it for 1 quarter, and I did it for 3 years. And I remember the place where we were meeting was by a university, and I come into the lobby before I go in and kick off our meeting, and Susie Orman's standing there, and she was going to be speaking over at the university. So, and it was weird because I was watching her show on PBS the night before, and I walked in there, and there she was in the same tan leather suit. And it was like, what is happening? Right? And so I said, hey, Susie, how you doing? And she's like, hello. And I said, hey, I'm going to open up my program here this morning. You want to just come in for a second and say hi? And she said, sure. And I'm like, really? And she said, sure. So I said, everybody, I have my openers here. So if you want to come on in and say hi. And in walks Susie Orman, and everybody just sat there and literally looked confused.
I know. That's the same thing that happened with Les Brown. They were just like, is it him? Is it an imposter?
I know. Your brain goes, what is happening? Exactly right. And so, and she talked for just a couple minutes. I gave her a hug. I said, that was awesome. Thanks so much. And then they left. And ever since I'm like, well, Susie Orman has opened for me.
Right. That's right.
Oh, but it was awesome. And she was very gracious. So, but that's an amazing story. And, it just goes to show that it's okay to dream. And I think sometimes people stop dreaming because they're tired of setting goals and not reaching them. And, but you just got to keep going after them. I think that the key to everything is being relentless. right? You have to just keep going. Even if you're not quite sure if you're going to pull it off, it doesn't matter. You just keep going anyway, and something amazing will happen. So
yeah, the lessons, the lessons are sometimes hidden and you don't get them till years later. But the difference is, again, growth mindset or fixed mindset. If you believe you can and you're open, then you'll grow. It's not about avoiding problems or avoiding conflict or not having failures. That's not it.
mhm.
It's fail fast so you can learn from it and move on.
Yes, that's exactly right. In life, there are winners and learners.
Yeah.
Be one or the other, and you'll be just fine. So,
Right.
Ford, this has been outstanding. I mean, what an emotional roller coaster. The stories and all the things that you shared, really powerful stuff. And there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in here. So, thank you very much for taking the time to be.
Absolutely. It's been great, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks so much. And everybody, make sure you go and check out Ford's resources at Fortify, and I will send the link out as well so that you have it. Go check that out and use it and watch his videos and get his programs, because they will make a ginormous difference in your business and in your life. So thanks, everybody. Make sure that you take what you've learned and apply it and make today a sure success. See you soon.